I don't think I will do this anymore.
Okay. How do you feel about this? Like, do you feel like the songs that you've written while something is happening, do you like them better, or do you cringe at it later?
People say, if you have an artist boyfriend, expect some songs about you at some point. So
Did you feel that now finishing those songs that you actually don't, you're not excited about the songs anymore? You can do things now that wouldn't have been possible for you a couple of years ago because nobody would have the budget to do that.
it has a very important and interesting healing effect on you.
This is the Self-Recording Band Podcast, the show where we help you make exciting records on your own, wherever you are, DIY style. Let's go.
Have you ever written something in a burst of raw emotion only to cringe at it 1 year later? Or maybe the opposite, you sat on a song for too long and then you somehow lost the magic? I think in the age of AI-generated music and the flood of music that's, technically fine and engineered without flaws, if you will, but it's still incredibly boring often. The one thing that music fans want is the human connection. And it's stories, it's emotion, it's art that is relatable and authentic. And so we wanted to talk about that part of producing and how writing in the moment, or like capturing a moment, versus writing about something that happened some time ago or revisiting old material, how that affects the outcome. And we want to explore different ways to approach songwriting and how these different approaches lead to different results. And so I think, we have so many technical episodes, and we sometimes do these writing episodes as well, and these big picture things. But I think it gets more and more important to talk about these things, talk about the essence, about the songs themselves, the emotion, the art, the connection, because that is what ultimately will set you apart in this day and age. And I think the technical stuff will become less and less relevant. And so Manel came up with this topic, my amazing friend and co-host that I'm about to introduce, and I want to do this. I think it's a great topic to explore. So we're going to talk about writing and producing fast in the moment versus letting it sit for a while. We're going to talk about the same thing with producing and mixing, if that affects the result and how. And we're going to use a couple of examples to, discuss this and talk about this. So we're going to use Manel's example because Manel has been working on an album for a couple of years now. And I'm curious to hear how those songs and the results he was getting, how those evolved over time, if maybe things are different now compared to when he was writing some of the songs a couple of years ago, and now he's coming back to them to mix them and all those things. So let's do this. Let's talk about the power of the moment versus revisiting past work later. And as always, I am not doing this by myself. I'm doing this with my friend and co-host, Manel Espinosa Berenguer from Spain. Hello.
Hi, Benny. As always, super, extra happy to be here talking with you.
Amazing. Yeah, totally. We're both mixing engineers, producers. We work on slightly different things when it comes to genres and also the services we offer. But we both are actively working on music all the time. I have a mixing studio. We mix a lot of songs every single year here. And Manel is doing a lot of production work with artists, taking demos and turning them into full productions. So we have different perspectives, different angles. Manel is more involved in the writing and production side of things. I'm more involved in the getting it over the finish line part, mixing and mastering. And so together we're sharing the insights from our daily work on this podcast and this whole platform, the selfrecordingband.com. This is this platform and this podcast, but not only that, it's also available on YouTube if you're discovering this on a podcast service. So you can watch the video version if you prefer. And it is an educational platform also. So we work one-on-one with people from all over the world, with artists, and we coach them and help them make exciting records from their jam spaces and home studios. We do this in a coaching program that is it's a hybrid program. It has a group element, but it's also one-on-one coaching, and we work very closely with these artists and help them. And for those of you who want to do it yourself, and make records in your own studio at home, but you want to do it with professional guidance and feedback, this is exactly what we're doing. So if you're interested in that, go to the selfrecordingband.com. All right. Manel,
Yes.
let's talk about writing. Let's talk about emotion and how time affects the whole thing. So what made you come up with this topic for today, and why do you think it matters?
Well, it matters, firstly, because, I've been going through a couple of rough weeks. And every time that I go through something like that, I tend to write a song about it. It's this typical thing where people say, if you have an artist boyfriend, expect some songs about you at some point. So, yeah. So sometimes I have the need to write about these things because it helps me. Yeah, it helps me get better. Basically, I don't know why, but writing my thoughts into a song, even if it's not released or anything, it helps me with that. And it's been great because it's super intense because it's something that you are feeling in the moment. So I'm writing about something that I'm feeling right then and there. So the way you say things is super subjective and super influenced by the context that you're going through now, right? So yeah, I thought that's a great way of writing because it's super raw. Like it cannot be more raw than that, I guess.
Yeah.
But then there's the other way where no, you can just make a note about that and then write it somewhere in time later on when you might have a different perspective. Probably you'll be healed already, but you can reflect on that experience in a different way. So yeah, none of those two ways are wrong, and both of them have their, I would say, interesting aspects.
Yeah, totally. And I think the main difference to me when I think about it and when I prepared this episode, I think the main difference was immediacy. Like if you do it right away and you're capturing the moment and how you feel right now in a way, this leads to like raw energy and honest, honest storytelling, but also very emotional and not very rational storytelling, maybe, because you're so influenced by the emotions right now, which is not always rational, maybe not even true, but it's your truth in that moment. And then it's like very unfiltered, very raw. I think it has a lot of potential to connect with people because it is so emotional, and because everyone goes through phases like this where we are more emotional than rational, maybe. And hindsight and processing something that has already happened a while ago, on the other hand, leads to maybe some deeper thoughts, deeper insight. Might be less superficial, might be more rational. It can lead to more refined and thought through songwriting, and maybe also better arrangement decisions, better lyric decisions in a way, technically, because you spend maybe more time thinking about it. And both have their pros and cons, I think. And so the question is, one angle that I wanted to explore today is one more authentic than the other, or is it just a different kind of truth? Because in that moment, what you're feeling is true, even though it might not be rational, or it might be you might be overreacting, or you might be very emotional, and maybe later this changes. But it is the truth in this moment of how you feel. And the other one is also true, and it's maybe even more true because you can think about it some more. It's going to be more rational, and I don't know. Is one or the other more authentic, more real? Is like has one or the other more potential to connect? I don't know. Like, how do you feel about this? Like, do you feel like the songs that you've written while something is happening, do you like them better, or do you cringe at it later when you listen to it, and you prefer the ones that you put some more thought into and let some time pass before you process it? Do you have a preference?
I don't really. Like, I don't think any of the ways is more authentic than the other or anything like that. It's just a different process. But it's obvious that, like, probably in a year or something, maybe I read the lyrics that I've just written and I think that maybe it's too much. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel like that anymore. But that's gonna happen with any song with time, right? So the thing is that how you feel about the topic or the experience, it's gonna be different because, if you write it right now when you're going through it, it's gonna be way more intense. You might have a different perspective. But when time passes, you'll be, you can be colder, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Because you can even criticize yourself for what you did before or whatever. So, but I think there's an aspect that's important in both cases, which is what you feel when you're doing it, right? Because when you do, at least for me, when I write something right now, and let's imagine that I decide to produce it and finish it now, that's like instant pleasure, right? If you let it go and time passes, the pleasure is different, right? It's not like something, now I feel like I want this right now, and when I do it, it's super satisfying, but maybe for a little while only, right? But if you do something that's longer, maybe it's not as intense, just as the experience, but the outcome, yeah, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think about how this affects not only writing and like songwriting and lyrics and all that, but also, like you just said, the whole production process, because there's a difference between starting something right now because you feel a certain way, you want to capture it, you're inspired by whatever happens now, and then you just follow through until it's done immediately, versus starting the process and then finishing it sometime later, like when it's not this immediate, start to finish process right now. I think there's a different result. It feels very different. And I've experienced this where I think one is more risky, but there's a risk, but there's a potential of a very high return basically in that risk. Because what I've experienced is two different angles here for me. When I mix for artists that I'm not a part of, like when I'm not a part of the band, it's just my daily work at the studio. When sometimes I work on projects that have been planned long in advance, and I talk to the bands a lot. I know everything about the record and the demos and everything, and I help them with pre-production or whatever. And then when the songs come to me to mix, I already know exactly what I want to do. I have a clear plan, a clear vision. I know what the band wants, and it's a very thought through, rational process. I'm still trying to mix emotionally in a way, or react to the music, but also there is some things that I already know I want to achieve and I want to do, and I have a plan for that. But then there are other projects where the band contacts me, they give me very little information, and they just say, hey, we want you to be as objective as possible, and you just listen to what we recorded and then do your thing. And I don't know much about it, and I just start mixing. Maybe it's even a rush project that needs to be done super quickly, and then I come in, I hit play, I hear it for the first time, and I just immediately create something off of that immediate reaction. And the first approach, where I know everything about it and have a clear plan, that always leads to really great results, just because I know what I'm doing and it's planned and I just know it's great. The other one also in the end leads to great results, but it's a little more risky because I tend to be quick, emotional. I just do whatever I feel like right now, and that totally depends on the day. Then, like, how do I feel this day? How do I enjoy the music right now? How do I react to that? If I'm having a bad or a good day, really makes a difference in terms of like how good my work is that day and what comes out of that. But very often, when I listen back to those quick or fast, intuitive mixes with little information, when I listen back to that later, it's like, pretty often I'm thinking, wow, that is like a pretty bold mix, and it's emotional, raw, energetic, and I like it. There have been situations though where I completely like missed it in some way, shape, or form. It was just that, like, yeah, and I have to start over basically. I always like listen to the work before I send it to the artist, but there were situations where I was like, oh yeah, it felt good in the moment, but now listening to it a couple days later, maybe not a good idea. And so it's more risky, but when it works, it can work really, really well, and it's a very energetic, raw, emotional kind of result often. So that this is the one angle here from my perspective, from my professional perspective. The other one is when I'm part of a band. Most of the time when I was producing, mixing, whatever, our own records, I've been involved in the process for a long time. And by the time I start mixing it, I already know everything kind of about it. It's less emotional. It's all, and even the writing process and everything, it's usually a pretty long process for me or for us in the bands that I'm in. So it's never really this just capture the moment and move fast kind of thing. Unfortunately, because it's just the way it works with different people living in different cities, and it's just a long process. People don't have time, and it's just we rarely get together and get to start and finish something in a short period of time. It's just what it is. However, when I capture, sometimes I have ideas for myself, like song ideas, and I just record them for fun for myself, just a quick demo, and I don't know if I'm ever going to do something with that. But those things, I tend to be super fast because I don't have much time, and I want to capture it right now while I have this moment, and I take it from basic idea to basically finished production, although it's more or less a demo, but I move really fast on that stuff, and that feels different. That is, I start to finish, I have this excitement and this feeling, and I want to capture it and get it done. And it's like, it's fresh, it's new, it's exciting. And it's very different from this long process where you come back to it and then you stop again and you come back to it again. And so this is the other perspective for me as an artist. And it leads to different results and it feels different in the process. And so in your case here with your album production, you did everything. You were the writer, the artist, the producer, the mixer, like everything. And so I wonder how that felt for you, and if it was like a combination of both, or and what do you think the results were and how it impacted it all? Because from what I know is you started writing the songs 2-3 years ago. You produced one at a time, finished one at a time. Now revisiting them. Now you are revisiting them basically years later, and mixing them now. And so, is it like how does it feel? Would it have been better to finish them right away 2-3 years ago? Are you glad that you're now finishing them? Is it like, yeah? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, wow. I would say I'm really happy with how it has, how it has come out at the end. But I don't think I will do this anymore.
Okay.
Because if I really think about it, I probably started in 2021 because that was the beginning of my final year project at university.
Yeah.
Which is where I started to document myself about the different topics that I wanted to touch on the album, like lyric-wise, but also genre-wise and all that. Like there was a huge investigation, I would say, for for an album. So it has taken a long time, and all the songs in the album were not written about something in the moment. Like I had a notebook with lots of ideas, and I picked all the ideas from there. Like I had enough ideas for all of that. I did a lot of object writing, but none of the songs was about something that was happening to me at the moment. And yeah, then I separated the project in different phases. Like first I wrote all the songs, but only the songwriting part. Then I produced all the songs. Then I mixed all the songs. And then I had to mix all the songs again when I met you, but I had already mixed them.
Yeah.
So it's been too much, like for one person. And also I did everything, the brass arrangements, I did them myself, and I had some friends playing them, and that was also a nightmare because they had other things to do, and it was crazy. Then at the beginning, the bass was all like digital electronic,
Yeah.
right? But then I bought a bass and I played it a little bit, and I was like, oh, I think I should record the bass. So, so it's been a really long project, which I think has helped me get better at all the different phases of the of the recording process itself, and it's been like really nurturing. But I don't think I'm gonna do anything like that anymore alone.
Yeah.
Because yeah. So in terms of writing in the moment or writing later on, in this case everything was done later on. But the thing is that, and I think it's interesting that, we are simplifying and separating the topic into these two ideas, like writing in the moment and doing it later. But I would say almost every time it would be a combination of those, right? Because, for example, with this song that I just wrote about my thing, I wrote it in the moment, and like I would say the lyrics are fully written, but maybe I could decide to produce it later on. So that would be a combination of in the moment, like for the songwriting part, but then I would let it sit for the production thing. I would do that especially if I was the one doing it, because maybe doing all yourself again, it's too much in terms of, perspective and objectivity and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the biggest challenge that every self-recording artist kind of faces. But yeah, I'm wondering, like, while you were sharing that, I was wondering mostly about the emotional versus rational kind of thing. Like, did something change emotionally or musically during that time? So, like, did you feel that now finishing those songs that you actually don't, you're not excited about the songs anymore? It's like less about the tedious process and the objectivity, but like, could it be that maybe you wouldn't even write the same songs anymore, or like you're a different person now, or a different musician, and like you just have to finish them because they're there? But maybe it's like, yeah, things just changed too much during this long time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem too, but I would not say I'm a different person or whatever, but I would say I'm tired. Listen to the songs 200 times. I'm not excited anymore. The choruses do not impact me anymore. I know what's coming,
Yeah, totally.
So,
but you didn't throw out any old parts or something that you don't connect with anymore, or like?
No, not really. I think I've been pretty strict in that sense, because if you start to change things all the time, it's never gonna end. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain belief in like the old Manel that he made good decisions back then. So even if you're not objective anymore, and if it's not exciting to you that much anymore, for new listeners, it is new. And so you probably kind of also trust that the songs are still good. It's just you and your perspective that has changed. And it doesn't mean that you now have to redo the songs, because for other people, it's going to be new and it's still good songs, right? There's this certain type of confidence too, but because there was a reason you've written the songs the way they are.
I mean, of course, you can always listen to the songs and start questioning them or whatever, but my mind, it's not there at this point. Like, I'm not even trying to question or think about anything. It's just, let's mix them as, let's make the best mix possible. And of course, when you mix, you're gonna make some decisions, some creative decisions, right? But most of the thing is done already. So
it's so funny, because I don't have the problem, of course, with your music, because I haven't heard it for a couple of years. And when we started collaborating, and now I hear these songs, every time I think, man, like, he's getting so good. And like for me, this is new, right? This is a new song that I've never heard before, and I'm super excited about the songs. I really, really like them. It's a totally different perspective, a different way of thinking about it. And so I was actually kind of surprised when you told me last week or 2 weeks ago, when you said that you're getting kind of tired of the record. And I mean, part of me is not surprised just because I know how long it's taking, but to me, it was super exciting to hear these songs, and then it's just a different perspective. So, but you would say in your case, the long process definitely hurt like the creative flow more than it helped, basically, and at the end of it at least. And so, in the future, or like your personal opinion or recommendation would be to finish a project faster, collaborate earlier, maybe don't do it all on your own, or find a way to get it done while you're still excited about it, right?
Yeah. I would say mostly like the most important thing of those things you mentioned is don't do it on your own. Like, but of course you have to find people that you trust, that you are comfortable with. Because, I'm, as a person, like, I think I'm good being alone. Like, I manage quite fine with being lonely. But that kind of stacks up at some point. And I enjoy, talking to people. Like, I welcome ideas from other people and stuff like that. And it's more fun for me. Maybe someone can be different, but yeah.
I agree, and I see it also in all the people that I work with, both in the studio but also the coaching. The bands that take forever to finish their recordings until they send it over for mixing. Like sometimes I'm working on projects where they book me they hire me to mix the stuff, and then it takes forever for them to finish the recordings, and things get pushed back, and almost all of them eventually get tired of their own thing, and it's not as exciting anymore as in the beginning, to the point where sometimes they just want to finish it so that it's done. They don't even it almost seems like they don't even care anymore, which can be sad. And so I see it there. I see it in the coaching as well, is that a lot of people come to the program because they've been so frustrated about the fact that they've been working on their music for so long without getting real results, without being able to finish it and release it. And that's why they finally get help. And then we get some of the old songs across the finish line, but I see them get truly excited when they start working on new stuff. And then it's completely different. And we try to make it, we try to give them like quick wins, or like at least one song or two that they produce relatively fast, just so they experience what it's like to capture and finish something that you are really enjoying in the moment. And so I think it's true for most people that this has more benefits. But yeah, there's like, but still there are examples for both. There are like favorite records that have been years in the making and they're great. It's not that it always has to be done fast. It's a very subjective thing, and but it's an interesting topic to explore. So when we go to a couple of famous examples, for example, there's like Taylor Swift, for example, is known to write a lot of her work in the moment, and she also, people think she's such a great songwriter and writes everything herself. She is a great songwriter, but also she has help and co-writers. It's not that she writes everything completely on her own, and she's one of the examples who I think writes a lot of stuff compared to other pop stars that you might know. So many of them don't even write at all; they just perform, and other writers write. That's very normal. Taylor Swift is a great songwriter, though. And she's known to write a lot of stuff in the moment, with some exceptions that are more reflective and, produced on a longer time horizon, written on a longer time horizon. There are examples like, we talked about it yesterday in a group call inside of our coaching program, Kurt Cobain. He sometimes wrote lyrics last minute, sometimes minutes before the recording session or in the recording session. The results are often like lyrics that are imperfect, full of rawness, like not really thought out, but connected very well with the audience, obviously, right? And the funny thing or interesting thing about him is also that I just learned this yesterday again from someone in our coaching program who shared a podcast episode with us where they talk about this. And many of you listeners might know this, I had no idea, that, he came to the recording sessions of, I think it was even Smells Like Teen Spirit, but there were like songs where he came to the session and he wrote it right then and there, but he came into the session with, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 different versions of those lyrics already, like ideas, notes, rough ideas. And then they picked one angle, refined it during the recording session and went with that. But like on the day of the recording, it was not clear which of the 4, lyric ideas would be the song, which is also fascinating in a way. So he didn't come in completely unprepared. That's what I'm trying to say. But the final decision happened on the day. Very interesting. But then there are records that haven't been that well received because of the same thing. So, for example, Metallica, Saint Anger had raw immediacy and was on purpose pretty simple, raw, authentic, in the moment kind of thing. But many fans found it to be undercooked. Like they thought they should have put more thought into writing it. It's like that can also happen. It can be too simple then also sometimes. And then there are things like Radiohead. They often rework like old ideas for years before releasing them. So they were working on some of the songs for a very long time, reworking them over and over again until it was the final thing. Then they released it and people loved it as well. So that's why it's so hard to have a really, it's like not a matter of like good or bad approaches, but maybe you have to find the right one for the project and for you and what you're trying to get across. Other people like don't write anything before they go to the studio. They write in the studio. Early Foo Fighters, where they wrote, recorded, produced everything in the studio basically. And back in the day, that was kind of sometimes the way to go. Is like you would book a studio for the writing process of a record and then right into production and recording and all of that. If you watch the Beatles documentary, the very I forgot what it's called. The very famous on Disney Plus. I think it is this. I forgot the name of the documentary. It's fascinating. If you watch this with the original footage from the time, basically, they were in the studio writing and recording the album at the same time. So a lot of people did that, and it can't work, and it led to really, really great results. But
my question is, do you think that you have like mixed and also recorded full albums? Do you think in like for normal self-recording artists, is it a real possibility to write an album like that, like write and record an album like that, like in the moment? Because like I feel like probably Nirvana or Foo Fighters or whatever, they would probably have like unlimited studio time.
Yeah,
and they would only have to focus on songwriting. Like someone else was probably taking care of the
definitely
mics and producing and all that. So do you think is it like a real possibility for a self-recording artist to?
I think actually that this is part of why this topic was so exciting to me, and I wanted to talk about it, is because this is the big advantage of being a self-recording band, is that you can do that. You can write and record in the studio. Years ago when recording equipment was not available or like too expensive and people had to go to a studio to make a proper record, it was an absolute, like, it was a luxury. Like nobody would be able to afford spending weeks and months at a studio writing, doing pre-pro, doing demos, and then the actual recording and all of that. Like that would have cost a fortune. So this was exclusively available to bigger artists or people with big budgets. And now we can do that like the Foo Fighters, because we have our own studio that we have access to all the time. Of course, the problem here is then at some point you got to draw the line and say like, yeah, we got to finish it also. We got to move from the creative phase to the actual crafts phase and just get it done. And sometimes people just never finish things. This is the danger, but it is absolutely possible. And the other thing that you said is you probably don't have people around you who take care of all the rest. You don't have the engineers, the producers, the co-writers, the runners, the assistants, like, and all those people taking care of everything while you just focus on the songs. So you have to wear all the hats at the same time. And this is why we always teach, and also in our coaching, to separate the phases of the project and to focus on the song and the writing first and exclusively, without worrying about sounds too much, and just really make sure the songs are awesome, whether you capture them quickly and move fast or whether you think about them for a long time, but like make the songs create the songs first and don't worry about mic placement and technical things in the beginning. Then when the song's done, switch and put your producer hat on, refine the arrangements and song structures and all that. So turn the basic song idea into an actual thing that can be recorded. Then put on your engineer hat, figure out the best source tones, figure out where to put the mics, which mics to use and all of that. And then just focus. And then again, switch again. And then you are the performer where you now have the songs, you have the arrangements, you have the sound check done. Now it's about playing the best possible takes and only focusing on that. And then you switch to, again, engineer and do the editing, mixing, mastering. So it is possible, absolutely, because you have unlimited access to your own studio and you don't have the time and money budget pressure. But you got to be very disciplined to not cut corners and do all these jobs properly that usually a big group of people would do. And I think the only way to do that is to be a little bit structured and like separate these phases. If you're one of the very rare unicorns who can have this like fluid process and do all at once, good for you. But I've seen in my experience, most people cannot do this. A lot of people think they can, and they start writing and at the same time also recording and then mixing a little and then going back and exchanging a few parts and then doing this or that. Almost always when they do that, either they never finish and it's like this open project that just keeps evolving forever, or they cut corners because oh man, I want to swap out this one take because I have a better idea now. But oh shit, now I have these old rusty strings on my guitar. Or like I want to do, they just go back and forth between the different phases of the project and cutting corners everywhere basically because it's never ideal. They're never really set up to do the task at hand. And it's always a compromise. And so I would really encourage people to go through it one step at a time. But then, yes, it is possible. And you can do things now that wouldn't have been possible for you a couple of years ago because nobody would have had the budget to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree to some extent. But there's, of course, I wasn't worried about the gear because nowadays we don't need the whatever 2,000 euros compressor to record an album. You can do it all on your computer and it's not as expensive and all that. But there's a difference still, which is time. Because like self-recording artists have normal lives, right? And they normally have a job that they need to fulfill and stuff. So there's no, I would say most of them cannot spend 1 month non-stop. Like maybe it takes 3 months instead of 1 month, but because you cannot dedicate like every day to go to the studio and spend the whole day there. That's a difference too. But yeah, for me, for example, right now, it's super crazy painful to record vocals myself here alone, because I have to think about other things that are not singing, it distracts me a lot. It makes me angry even because I have to move things around and it's a pain. And the same when recording guitars, for example, because I have to place the 2 microphones, play a little bit, then move again, reach for the whatever, then get back in the position again, and it's very uncomfortable. So yeah, in the future, I would like to, at least for recording vocals for my own things, I would like to go somewhere else and just focus on singing and not thinking about the gain and whatever.
Yeah, totally. And I highly recommend people experience that at least once. And for some people, it's always the best solution to go and hire professionals for certain things or the entire thing. For other people, it's the best thing to do it themselves. Everyone's really different there. But at least once, everyone should experience that, I think, and then make a decision. And whatever leads to better results and is more fun, you should do. And even if it's just for the learning experience. And yeah, you're totally right. Focus is always a good thing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There's something I want to talk about, which is the producer's dilemma, sort of, when you are producing yourself versus producing for others. So when you're producing for others, do you push for emotion in the moment or help them refine things over time? I've been in that situation quite a bit where I've worked with people and they brought me in early in the process for pre-production, writing, arrangement, help, and all of that. And when I think the song is not there yet, I have two options. I can either ask and figure out how they feel right now in the process of writing this or whatever, if it's something current that has inspired the song, and then push to get it done quickly to capture whatever happens right now. Or I can help them refine it over time, think about it, let it sit there, do something else in the meantime, come back to it later. And this is not always an easy decision to make, even in a recording session when the song is already written. Sometimes I try to get you always try to get the best takes out of the performance, of course, but sometimes I try to really be spontaneous and creative right now, or get the whatever they're feeling right now, get the emotion out of them in the moment. And sometimes it can also be better to maybe, work on a different song and think about the song again, because maybe that one line doesn't hit and we don't have a really great idea right now, or maybe it just, we thought it works, but for some reason it doesn't really connect with us. It doesn't really work. And so you can either try and do something spontaneous right now and capture whatever energy you have in the room at the moment, or you can be let it sit there, think about it for some time, and then come back later. Hard to make that decision. And if you're capturing yourself, the same thing. Are you capturing a moment right now? Or are you sculpting the art from memory? So are you recording something or writing something about something that has happened in the past versus how you feel right now? And so, this is the overall topic of this episode, of course, but I think it leads to very different results, because it's almost like when you write something or you capture something from memory, it's almost like taking a step back and watching yourself from the outside, almost like a third-party person, and analyzing whatever you felt back then and trying to put that into a song, versus just brain dumping whatever you feel right now onto a piece of paper or into your guitar take and just letting it happen and doing it in the moment. So it's always this kind of dilemma, how much can you create and sculpt art with a plan and with a structure, and how much of it has to be whatever you're feeling right now?
Oh my God. I don't really know. I would say that, the way I normally work with the most of the artists that I work with, it's I'm not only a producer, I'm a session musician, because I end up playing everything basically. And the thing is that the way I work in those situations is, I would make them feel some forms before about the song, about what they want, references, what they like about the references. And we would have a call to talk about that after I read them. Or maybe they come here and we talk about it here. We record, how do you call it? Like a guide track or whatever. And I would make some suggestions if I think the lyrics, something could be improved or the melody could change for some reason, but only if I feel like it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I even make the suggestions before that when they send me the demos, because I immediately see things that they may not see because they are, those are their babies. So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the, recording/production process, when I'm playing the things here, I tend to be quite spontaneous, I would say, because I've studied the references before. So I'm like, this thing, bam, 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 record it, done. I'm not gonna think about it for too long, right? If then the
Yeah.
artist tell me, yeah, I don't like this thing you did here, then I would change it and think about it or stuff. But when I'm like producing, I tend to, move fast, but because I've prepared it before and I know what I need and what I want to get out of the guitar or the bass or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a combination of both
Yeah,
at the end.
it is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Maybe some practical advice for listeners. I think everyone should just try both, because there's only one way to find out what works for you. And maybe it's one, it doesn't have to be either or even. It's like on some projects it will be one approach and on others it will be the other. But it's just the awareness that that makes a difference, and that you can write songs very differently. So I'd say try and go through the exercise at least once to just capture a demo while the emotions are really fresh, and don't worry about perfection and polishing it. Just capture whatever you feel right now, make it really raw and authentic. And even if it's cringy or whatever, you don't have to release it. You can just do the experiment and see what comes out of it. So just go fast, capture a demo while the emotions are fresh. Then, you can take some of these ideas and then listen to them sometime later and, ask yourself, do you still like this? Is this still cool? Or is it like something you would never release and it's embarrassing or whatever? Maybe it is good but needs some refinement, and it can be a combination of both. I would say, definitely when you have ideas and when you have strong feelings and emotions and you feel inspired to capture that and write songs, definitely always capture everything just as raw notes, like archive everything, because, that voice memo from a dark night might be the most honest and authentic thing you ever wrote. And so you never know. So just always capture everything. And you can then, even if you go and write a song intentionally and it's not something you're feeling right now, you can then draw from those recordings and those notes that you have. So always just capture and archive. And when you feel like it, follow through and finish it right away. And if not, just leave it in the notes. And then know when you're just polishing for the sake of perfectionism versus actually improving the song. That's another thing. Some people just keep revising and redoing songs or lyrics over and over because they think it's not perfect yet, but they don't realize that they're actually never not improving the song anymore. It just gets different but not better. And so this is, I think, something to be aware of, that maybe the idea wasn't strong enough to begin with. Maybe it was good and you're just lacking perspective. Maybe just perfectionism gets in the way. But definitely know if you're still making things better or not. And this is where feedback helps a lot, because you will lose perspective and you will get too close. So working with others can really help, and having writing partners. And then one thing that I really liked when I did a little bit of research for this episode, and when I prepared and kind of tried to structure my thoughts on this very abstract gray area topic here. One thing I found really useful is if you use tools like journals, notes, mood notes about how you felt in a certain moment, visual references, etc., to anchor the original feeling. That helps even if you revisit it months later. So meaning, when you feel something and you start writing a song, you start capturing and processing that emotion, and you write it down, and you start writing lyrics, or you have an idea for a chord progression or something that gets the emotion across. Don't just capture the lyrics or the chord progression. Maybe also made a note about how you felt in that moment, or what you saw, what you heard, what you smelled, things that will remind you of that moment and how you felt, because then, like I said, you can anchor that feeling. And even if you revisit it months later, it will be stronger than just having just that line or that chord progression. You will be able to maybe feel it again, experience it again, process it again slightly differently, and come up with stronger lyrics. And so that, I think, is really a cool idea, to just give some more context about the emotion and not just capture the idea itself.
That would be something like object writing, right?
Yeah.
Just write anything about what you're feeling and leave it there, and you may or may not use it at some point. There's one thing that I would strongly recommend, which is that or at least it happens to me, whenever you feel that, even if you're, in this case, for example, I was writing another song that I was writing, bit by bit or whatever, but I had this moment and I felt this sort of something, fire, need to write about this thing. And I left that one aside and just wrote this one because I felt it was very important for whatever reason. Then it probably it isn't as important because at the end it's just one song. And sometimes we feel like it's the most unique thing ever. And it's not really, but I think it's important to make use of this feeling of fire things that are happening right now. Yeah, because I think it's something special, and it has a very important and interesting healing effect on you, which is even more important than anything that we are talking about during the podcast, like to feel better with your situation or yourself or whatever. And then an interesting thing is that I was listening to a podcast, I think it was yesterday, and there was this Spanish artist. She's called Zahara. Zahara, I know how to pronounce it. And she was talking about something very related to this and very interesting, which is that she does this thing of, writing ideas like every day for a good while and then erasing them. Like getting rid of those ideas, even if they were good or bad or whatever, just as a way to understand that she doesn't have to be so precious, that new ideas and new good ideas will come out anyways. I think it's kind of crazy to do that, but yeah. So think about it.
Yeah. 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 No, I love it. I love it. It's great. Any more practical things like that?
No, that's what I was thinking. Do you want more?
No, that's really good. That's a lot to do and a lot to think about for people already. That's great. I love it. Yeah. I guess the takeaway here, or like, there's no right or wrong, right? I mean, that's pretty much clear. But I think it's worth knowing why you're choosing one approach over the other, or at least trying them in some way, shape, or form. Trying some of the practical stuff that we just mentioned, especially the last one that Manel said there is like definitely something. And then music is, I think, remembering that's also why it was so important, why these topics are so important for me. Just remembering that music is an art form. And it sounds so weird, but that we have to say this, but music is a human art form. And it is important that it's, at the end of the day, it's all about that. It's all about the connection and the emotion. And as much as we love EQs and compressors and mics and guitars and whatever, at the end of the day, it's a piece of art that we're creating that's supposed to make someone else feel something, or that's supposed to help us express something and heal or process or whatever. It's so powerful, and this is what it's all about. And the rest are just tools to make that happen. And even like people are so worried about AI or others are excited about it or whatever. And the thing is, AI can't replace these things, can't replace your story and how you tell it. And it's the one thing that makes you irreplaceable is your personal experiences, your story, the way you can connect with the world and with others. And as music fans, we don't just want to be music listeners, we want to be fans. We want to connect with other people and their stories. And so that's why I'm personally not afraid, because I think that things will change, definitely, and how we create music is changing and all that. But the essence of it, I think, will stay alive because we need that kind of connection. And it's just good to remind ourselves of that and not become lazy and think we can like just get good at prompting and, letting robots create stuff for us like that. There's a place for that and for those tools. I'm not against it at all, but I think we should not get lazy. We should still remember that it's about emotions and art, and how you get to that point doesn't really matter. Use all the tools you want, but don't forget why you're doing it in the first place, I think, and what you're trying to accomplish with it. And then think about when you're writing your song, think about this kind of idea of a time capsule song versus a documentary. So do you freeze a moment in time, and it doesn't matter if that is still true to you later, and you just capturing, freezing that particular moment, even if it's extreme, you're overreacting, it's emotional, whatever, but it's exciting, it's true, it's raw, it connects, and you want to do that. Or if you do a documentary where you look back on something and process that in a song. It's two different approaches. Just think about that. It might lead to interesting results. And then, of course, the whole thing about the timing, that we said, if you wait for too long, that can, cause you to disconnect emotionally from a song. But then again, maybe there are also ways that you can, how like reworking it can give it new meaning. So even if you're already disconnected, maybe you can find access again to it, rework it in a new way. But just know that time definitely makes a difference, and be aware of that, and think about if it's a good idea to just follow through right now, or if things will get better if you let it sit there for 2 years or so. It's not always the case, oftentimes it's not. So we would love to hear your experiences with this if you're listening to this. So have you written a song in the heat of the moment that would hit harder than anything else you've ever done? Or maybe you found new depth in something you wrote years ago. We'd love to hear about these things. So please comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, send us an email to podcast@theselfrecordingband.com. If you want to do that, leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. That always helps the show, first and foremost. But you can also put a little bit of a story in there, or some thoughts maybe if that episode was speaking to you. We'd really appreciate that. And then if you finally want to take that next step and don't do it on your own in the future, and you want to get help and you want to collaborate with others, check out the selfrecordingband.com and apply to work with us, because that's exactly what we offer here. And it's not just me or Manel. It is a group of people in there, a community that you can bounce ideas off of, where you can get feedback, and you don't have to do it all on your own. You can get help if you're losing objectivity and perspective. So this is something you can always do. There's zero risk. You can just apply for coaching. If we approve it, we jump on a free call. We create your personal plan. If you don't like it, we part ways. You pay us nothing. If you like it, you can join the program, and then we guarantee that you get at least one finished song out of this that's fully produced and you're 100% happy with. So go to the selfrecordingband.com and apply. Or if you say, no, I actually don't want to do it myself, I want to experience working with a producer or engineer, you can hire Manel and myself. We still do this full time, all the time. So you can hire Manel to develop a song completely, start to finish. You can hire me to mix a song, take it over the finish line, whatever. You can do both, So just know that this is a possibility. The links to all that are in the description and the show notes. Yeah, and before we wrap this up, I want to read two quick things here, just because these made my day today, and I'm not sharing these often enough. So one thing that happened inside of our coaching program today was Johnny, who mixed and mastered a record for a jazz trio, which is a hard thing to do because so much happens at the source with mic positioning and getting it right in the room and all of that. And he's done a fantastic job doing that, and I was helping him through the process, helping him with the mixing and mastering these last couple of days. And today I got the message that he sent the album off to the band, and they just love it, and now they're ready to release it. So congrats, Johnny. That's awesome. Getting approval from a band, especially in that kind of genre where it's so much about details and like an audiophile kind of way of working. Very well done. And then the other one that I got today was a message from Neil. I did a mix walkthrough yesterday with him inside the program, so I mixed a song for him as part of the program. Then I opened up the session, showed him everything I've done to the song, and now he gets the session file and can study all of that. And we've done it was almost 4 hours yesterday, pretty exactly 4 hours mix walkthrough together. Very, very in-depth, basically a custom mixing course based on his own material. And he said, thanks again for the marathon session today. It was truly one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. This program has done more for me than I could have ever imagined. So grateful that you went through everything. That was half a day of studio time. It's incredible. So yeah, thanks for the kind words, Neil. I love to help people like that. And yes, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort on my part, but that's the difference between an online course and personal coaching. And these messages just make my day. And so If you want to experience the same thing, theselfrecordingband.com. All right, Manel, what are next steps? Before we wrap this up, what are you doing next with your own music? Are you taking a break from writing? Are you writing again? Are you already looking for people to do it with? Or what? Or are you just sick of music in general?
I have one song left to finish my album. And then the way I work with, songwriting is that, I have little periods of time where I write a lot of songs. For whatever reason, I get this inspiration. But I have no idea what I'm going to do with those. I would like to experiment a bit more with that, with like working with others and stuff like that. But I have nothing decided yet.
Okay. Yeah. So, but you're still writing, and there will be new Manelito music in the future.
Yeah.
That's great. That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah, people check out his music as well. Link's going to be in the show notes. I think you're going to enjoy it. And Manel's a great artist for sure. All right, cool. Thank you for listening and watching, as always. Talk to you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.